Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Is the show for admins and developers to explore the community with me, learn as we go, and not only get the answers, but get the thought process behind the answers so that you can take that to your organization and be more effective. That's the premise, and I'm sticking to it. Thank you for joining me live today. If you are interested in joining, I will get that information in just a moment. And just a moment has elapsed. There we go. Go to YouTube and subscribe to the channel right there. This is a one-man show, so I've got to push the keys. I've got to change the cameras. It's all me, all volunteer, and it's all fun. Good morning, Kevin. Good to see you this morning. If you are out there in YouTube land, give me a shout out in the chat and let me know how things are going. I'm getting a bit of spooling going on in YouTube, but we'll see how that goes. I am here with the cup of tea, ready to go. Let me get the ad. We'll get that later. So YouTube, subscribe to the channel. You get alerts. My phone is around here somewhere. Let's see if it has an alert on it. Yes, it does. NOWCommunity is streaming live, so hopefully you've got that if you subscribe. I just like to do a technical check, make sure that's working. Give a shout out there, or if you prefer, watch on Twitch. You're welcome to do either one. We're not biased either way. You can watch wherever you like. I simulcast on both these channels. Good morning, Carolyn. Good to see you. It is Monday morning. I don't have a thing like TGIF for Monday morning, but only 3 shows this week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, because Thursday, Friday, I will be at DragonCon in Atlanta, Georgia, having a fun Labor Day weekend with all of my nerd friends. Hey, maybe I'll see you there. Maybe I'll see you there someday. If not this year, maybe next year. It's a great time to just geek out and have fun around science, sci-fi, books, movies, robotics, podcasting. It's a whole bunch of fun. I think they're expecting about 100,000 people this year. And we've got a couple of live podcasts there. But that's not what I'm here to talk to you about. I'm here to talk to you about the community. The community. Change that subtitle for me on the correct keyboard, Charles. Thank you very much. So the community is where you can find all this information. If you've got a question that goes beyond just simple shout out or confirming it's Monday morning, go over to the community at community.servicenow.com. Ask your question there because there are lots of great experts there, smart people that are jumping in, willing to help, answer your questions. But this is the only place you get the thought process behind that. Unless, of course, you're sitting next to somebody while they're working in the community. Now, that would be kind of cool, wouldn't it? Well, that's what I'm trying to bring you here. Is get inside my head and figure out what makes it tick. It might be scary sometimes. Thanks for watching. I recommend if you put something in the chat in YouTube or Twitch, I'm going to recommend that you put it in the community because that is the place to get your answers. If I start answering it in the chat, it's going to turn into a conversation between you and me and a handful of other people. Okay, maybe 100 or 200 or so other people. But that's not going to be searchable later. And what we really value out of the community is the ability to go in and search. So if you are new to the community, I got to remember if this is, there we go, clear that and put that up there. Couple of ideas, and I'm already seeing a lot of this morning. I did spend a few minutes in the community this morning. And please put context behind your question. Somebody just said, hey, can I pass 3 parameters to a script include? Didn't indicate whether it was client side or server side, or what they were trying to do is, yes, you can, but we don't have enough information to answer this effectively. A lot of people are throwing out script include examples and client script glide Ajax examples, but we don't know what the problem is. Please help us to understand. I'd hate to give somebody a solution. They go, wow, that's great, it worked, only to find out 2 years later that it's a maintenance headache or it's causing them upgrade issues or whatever. It would be a bit like somebody walking up to you and saying, can I get a car? You say, yeah, sure, you can get a car. What do you need? There's more information. There's more conversation to be had there. So please provide some context to start that conversation, at least in a positive direction. So Thumbs up from Kevin. That's all I'm going to say about that one. If you've been around the community for a while, you know the recommendations. I'm not going to beat those to death. Developer.servicenow.com. Get a free personal developer instance. Start using London today. It's not up for a couple more weeks officially, but you can actually, what is it, next week? Next week, I think, is the official launch. Oh, my goodness. Scheduled for September 5th. I haven't heard anything to date that will change that date. So September 5th is when you can start upgrading your organization's instances to London. But today, you could go get a free personal developer instance and start using London, experience and experiment what's new in London. Watch the Tech Now episode 55, which I'll put the link up there in just a minute. But there's also meetups, scripting APIs, free learning plans, all kinds of stuff out there. And once again, I'm on the wrong keyboard. Meetups, lots of developer meetups. You can find that over at the meetup.com URL you see there on the bottom. The Phoenix one last week was a great time. There's more coming. Charlotte has its first one tomorrow night. I had to look at my watch, but my watch is not on my wrist. It's getting charged right now. So, yeah, I believe Andrew J. Barnes said he will be there in Charlotte. So second one for North Carolina. I believe Raleigh is the other one. So looking forward to that. Maybe, just maybe, I can convince Craig Stepp to get up there before he goes on vacation. Morning, Todd. Good to see you. Long time no see on the morning live stream. Let's see, aside from meetups, we've got other events coming up. Go over to events.html on our main ServiceNow site, or subscribe to me. I posted 3 more things, articles, events, all kinds of stuff. If you want to join me on LinkedIn over there, if you're not already linked in, I appreciate you doing so. We also have the next Tech Now episode coming up. Episode 26 is coming up. 56 is coming up on September 25th. Got to get that right. You can find, I did post that. It's on the community of what we're doing. Obviously, the video is not embedded yet because we don't have the video. Unlike before where we could set up the video and embed coming soon. We've changed things around a bit earlier this year, and now I post them afterwards. So I got to do the webinar. I should say we have to do the webinar. Stacey Bailey, Craig Stepp, and me. We get in there, we talk about it. Craig is going to lead this one on Integration Hub and creating custom spokes. I'm looking forward to this one because I have not done too much with custom spokes. I mean, just little stuff. Made a 1 or a 2-step action and used it in a very specific use case. And looking forward to extending my knowledge, learning some of those best practices that come out of that. October, I have to remember if I've got this right. October, I believe, is Agent Workspace. November is Virtual Agent. And December is Agent Intelligence. So that's our lineup for Q4. Lots of agents. Sounds like the FBI, if you will. So doing a quick audio check, make sure both channels are working. Yep, got them here. Good morning, Rahul. Good morning, Rajendra. It's still early. My lips are learning how to work. And get the right keyboard. A reminder that we do have our Customer Success Center over there for lots of best practices, use cases. This answers a lot of questions when we do a survey at the end of Tech Now. We say, hey, what else would you like to see? And people are screaming for stuff that's already been published to the Customer Success Center. So this was rolled out in May, continues to grow, continues to evolve. I invite you to check back periodically. The upgrade article has been immensely popular. We are working on a shorter We are working on a shorter version of the URL to get easy access to the upgrade. But that will be published in the London launch video, which I believe is coming out on the 12th. We're having a big kickoff, keynote, kind of virtual online event. What else? I think that's it. No, one more. Let's go to this screen to remind you that any scripts that I write today, if there are some, will be captured and posted to the repo that you see on the bottom. I'll be putting those in GitHub, sometimes instantaneously. While you're watching, you can go and get the script. Sometimes it'll take me a few minutes afterwards to go and get that information. So you can find that there. I do that out of the goodness of my heart because people asked. They said, hey, you're writing all this cool stuff, and then I wind up squinting at the screen, and it's hard to tell if there's one parentheses or a curly brace in a parentheses. It gets a little weird. It's hard to see sometimes on the screen if it's a dot or a comma. So this way, you'll be able to find out, take it, make it your own, and say, that was really cool. I want to learn more about that. A lot of it is trial and error stuff. We're just experimenting around. And I believe that concludes our intro. Let us move forward. Trying to get through these as quickly as possible. I think I'd learn how to use 2 keyboards after a while, but it's just not happening. Good morning. Good morning. If you're just joining us, thank you for joining us. Let's get started on the community. Do a quick refresh on the screen. I like to start with whatever's new, whatever's fresh. I did answer a couple this morning, got involved with a couple of discussions. How to replace these hard-coded values with current values. Has 5 replies, but I am curious. Anytime it says hard-coded values, I like to look into this. Could be an opportunity to use properties. I do have a best practice published on that. We do have an entire Tech Now series published on that. And a second one on how to collect all those properties into a properties page. So if you want to make your application or your configuration. I've seen people take integrations and make a separate application menu with the integration data sources, transform maps, all under one menu for that integration. Makes it very easy to manage your integrations and any properties that are going to impact that. So here is my business rule and my second ServiceNow instance. I want to replace the hard-coded values highlighted of the code so that it makes a newly created instance parameters like current.short description, current.impact, and transfers that to instance 1. So request basic auth, header accept application JSON, content type is application JSON, request body is boom, boom, boom. So it's hard-coded. That would be easy enough. Let's see what the responses come back with. So copy the code from preview script usage. Wait, who wrote this? Sriram wrote this. So Shweta did that. You can get it from preview script. Hope that helps. All right, there's some replies under here. I think the previous thread I've given the answer, please do, is below. So what they're saying is setting a string parameter of short description to current.short description in your script is the proper way to do this. You can set that up as a parameter in the payload. So I have a question. I tried to use API Explorer in instance 1 to get the ServiceNow script and used it in instance 2's business rule to created for the incident table. I have not created a REST message whenever. Sounds like this conversation goes a little deeper than what their understanding of REST is. Yes, you need to create a REST message because the code provided by me, REST test, is a REST message name. All right, I'm going to walk through what this should look like. So, and maybe we can reference this in a bit. So if you're not familiar with REST messages, what they're trying to do is move something from instance 1 to instance 2. So first of all, I'm going to go over to another ServiceNow instance that I have. And to avoid confusion, I'm going to set the theme to something different than my origin. So let's set that one to Blues. So Blues is going to be my target instance. Let's create a user account for that person. And we'll go through this together. I don't think I'm actually going to reply to this, or maybe I'll say, hey, see ServiceNow live community stream at time mark 13 minutes. Start at 10 minutes, whatever it is. Let's create a new account for that because we want an integration account. This is very important for security reasons. I'm not using my Chuck.Tomasi. I'm not using admin. I'm using an account that I can control for this integration. So if this integration ever gets shut down, I then just disable this account and it's shut down. So let's do incident transfer. Incident, last name is transfer, and we'll give it a simple password. Let's use the password for, okay. We're not going to do a password resets and set web service access only. That means I cannot log into this instance even if I find this password out. We will save that and do a quick test. Let's go back over to my original system and then go to outbound REST message. Oop. Didn't get to the mute button in time. I apologize for that. Let's go to outbound REST message. So under System Web Services, outbound REST message, I am going to create just a real simple test. And that is going to be my name is going to be demo CT1 incident. Send incident information from dev 20465 to demo CT1. Now this is interesting because demo CT1 is still running Kingston. The endpoint is going to be, I've got two options here. One is to inject it directly into the incident table. The other is to create an import set API. It's to use the import set API. The best way is to use the import set API. That way I can take the information and transform it, normalize it, coalesce it. For the sake of this demonstration, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to use the incident REST API, the table API by itself. So if I go to the REST API Explorer on incident 2, there it is, System Web Services REST API Explorer, I can set up a quick, simple test. Give me the incident table. Come on. It's still loading. It's still loading. It's still loading. I want to do a, there it goes. Incident. Why it takes that long, I don't know. I don't need any query parameters. I'm just going to do a simple get because I want to know what that endpoint is. And there it is. Table incident done. Okay. Now, does this change if I do a post? I should have done a post. We're going to find out. So, wrong screen. There is my endpoint. The authentication is going to be basic. And I will, I didn't create a profile. So let's save that. I need to create an authentication profile. Don't save anything there. Let's create a new record. Name is demo CT1. Now this is so you don't have to copy and paste the same username, the same credentials into multiple endpoints. It gives me a reference to a set of credentials. So let's say I had 3 or 4 REST APIs on dev 20465 that were pointing to demo CT1 and using that same incident transfer authentication account. And then somebody says, hey, we need to update our credentials, change the password. Well, I would have to change it on, I'd have to first find every REST API or SOAP or whatever that's using that account and change each one of those, so that's up to 4 times. This way I change it once. So let's set that incident.transfer. This is live. I'm not doing anything pre-rehearsed. Password is going to be what I said before. You know what? I'm in the CLS application. That's fine. That's my community live stream. So now I'm using this demo CT1 profile. Save that. And I've got the main REST message set up. Now I need to provide a method. And it creates one by default called default get. But I don't want to do a get. I want to do a post. Post incident. Change that to a post. Excuse me. Authentication is going to be inherited from the parent, so I don't need to set this to basic every time. I could override it and say, no, there's no authentication. That would be dangerous if I was able to create incidents without any authentication. Good. So far, same endpoint. Let's look at the HTTP request. I don't need a mid server. And headers, let's put in the headers. Content type. Type is, if you forget these, sometimes it messes up APIs. Now, I believe ServiceNow defaults to content type and accept. So we'll put them in anyway. Application JSON. And the other common one is accept. This is what your response comes back with. So this green instance is going to send out a message, but it's also going to get a response from the other instance in JSON. So we want to say, yes, this is how I'm going to listen. They don't have to match. In fact, a lot of systems, they don't match. I don't need any query parameters, so let's put that there. My endpoint on post incident is going to be the same. However, down here in my content is where I'm going to put short description. And how do I know this? Because I could have built it over on this one with the REST API Explorer doing a post. Okay, that's where this comes from. And in here, I put $curly brace, whatever variable I want. I'm going to call it short description. Actually, that needs to be in quotes because it is a string. That would be bad JSON if it didn't. And they put something else in there, but I don't remember what it is. What was it? And they said short description and impact, urgency, description. We'll put description in there as well, just to have fun with it. So I got to find my instance. There it is. So comma, description is going to come from the description variable. Where do these come from, though? How do these meta strings get turned into real strings? That is down here. I love doing this kind of stuff. Hopefully it'll work for me. I've got some test variables that I can use just for, before I build a business rule, before I do anything else, let's test it out. So let's put one in called short description, because that's what it's looking for in that meta string, and the test value is going to be Chuck was here. Do another one for description, and put this one in as from the community live stream. All right, that's my test variables. At this point, it should be ready to go, and I can hit this test UI action down here to trigger it and see if it makes an incident on the remote system. I hit test, it fires it off, it waits, and I get a 400. Uh-oh, method failed. Okay, endpoint, blah, 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 short description, content, response. Cannot decode, blah, 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 message, exception while reading. So the message I sent, the content I sent, is right here. And you know what? I think this would be a really good place. See if I can favorite this thing. I'm just going to stick a favorite icon on there, because this JSON, I can't tell if there's an error in there or not, but it does say short description, Chuck was here. Oh, look at that. I'm missing a comma. I'm missing a quote. That would be easier to see if I went to global. I'm going to modify the dictionary on this. And I did this in my system log as well. Configure dictionary. This is the quick tip that Craig Stepp showed us from TechNow 55. What I'm going to do is go to the advanced view. And the reason I use advanced view and not the related list is because it doesn't always show up in the related list. There is a related list of attributes down here. Maybe it'll show up, maybe it won't. JSON view. Oh, it does. Okay, so you don't need the advanced view. And put true here. Submit that, and I'll show you in the advanced view what it just did. It chained it together with any other attributes, and now it says JSON view equals true. What did that get us, Chuck? That got us this nice little icon right next to the label that I can click and say, show me the JSON in a nice, beautiful formatted way, and it didn't, which means it's probably not formatted right, which means I probably screwed up the post-incident method. So let's go there, go back to my proper scope so I can edit this record. And in here, sure enough, there is a double quote missing, which I just overwrote a comma. So if I will look at that in a JSON beautifier, I'm just going to take whatever one comes up on top, paste that in there, beautify, make that a little bigger so you can see it. I've got quotes all matching, colons, a comma there. Look pretty good. Let's try it again. Let's go back to that screen. I'm not sure how I jumped off of that. Did I save that? I don't remember saving it. So let's save it again, just in case. If we try to access the REST method using mid-server, is there any need to do changes in the mid-server configuration? Shouldn't have to. What I did find out is the hard way back in, what was it, February, March, you do need to validate the mid-server. And I think I mentioned this about that time. The mid-server can register with the instance to say, hey, I'm a mid-server out here ready to do work, but the instance is not going to send it anything more advanced than, hey, give me your logs, what's your status, do you need a software upgrade? Basic mid-server maintenance commands in the ECC queue. If you try and put a REST message in there, it won't work. You need to go into the mid-server's record and click validate so that it validates that information and says, oh, I trust you, because I could register my mid-server with your instance if I had a URL and maybe some credentials that I stole from somewhere. But until your instance says, oh, I see you, I recognize you, I trust you, with that validation, it's not going to send anything like a REST command. So make sure you do validation if you're setting up a new mid-server. Let's try this again. We've got our quoted problem corrected. Let's hit a test. Go through, and I got a 201. That's a record inserted. Let's go over to this instance. Incident. All right, so we're halfway there. This is the way I usually build out a REST API, is from the source on up. If I'm doing a third-party thing like Todoist or Evernote or something, I will get their API, and oftentimes they give it in terms of examples of a curl command. From the command line, curl, and I type that first. Before even going into ServiceNow, I want to make sure that my encryption key or my API keys, my headers, everything works as needed before I start implementing that in ServiceNow. It's just an extra precautionary step to reduce the number of variables. If they say the curl command should work this way, I'm going to make sure the curl command works that way for me, and then start building up. So from curl, I go to ServiceNow outbound REST. From outbound REST, I go to script. From script, now this is where I want to take it in the future, is to go to an integration hub custom spoke. We'll get to that after Craig shows me how. So let's go to the incident table, not service desk incidents. Let's go to incidents open, and I should have one. There's Chuck was here, created by incident transfer. Pretty cool. Can I get this recording session after the meeting? The URL, yes, this is being recorded directly to YouTube. It will take about an hour after I conclude, which is 2 p.m. UTC, so about 3 p.m. you should see it available. It's got to do its YouTube processing thing, and then it'll be available. I'm also going to cross-post this back into the community, so watch for a video that starts with a posting in the community that starts with video : community live stream and today's date, 2018-08-27. You'll find that. The topics we cover, of course, at this pace, it may only be one topic. We may be talking about how to implement REST API between two ServiceNow instances. We'll see. The community was here. This is a successful post. Now, let's take this to the next level. Let's go into my REST message, not the method, not the test run, but the message. We'll start from the method and go backwards to here. No, wrong way. I want the script that makes this run. So if I use this UI action, preview script usage, up comes this lovely little window full of Cody goodness. And I said I would copy everything over to GitHub. So let me first bring up my editor. Makes it very, very easy to post that back to GitHub. There's my editor. Let's do new, paste, and walk through this. So what it did for me is starts with a try-catch block. Okay, always a good practice, especially when you're doing something like this. If it doesn't work, you'll be able to throw an error out. If it does work, it will just do that try block. And the content of this sample code says, go create me a new, the auto select was selecting but not unselecting. Go and create me a new REST message object. And you can pass it no parameters, in which case you will get a blank object that you have to fill in the endpoint and the credentials and all that good stuff. Or you can pass it the name of the REST message, which is the one that I created, demo CT1 incident, and the method. Remember, I have two layers there. I have the message and then the method. By default, it created me a get method. I turned that into a post. That's what we're working with. So that's what this is saying. Hey, go take all the information out of there, the authentication, the endpoints, the header information. I'll use that. It's a faster way to get this up and running, but it's not quite as flexible if you need to parameterize some of those things. Maybe your endpoint switches slightly, in which case you want to bring that back in here. Maybe your authentication changes. You're using one profile at one endpoint and one profile at the other endpoint. Totally up to you. If you go and read the API from developer.servicenow.com, you can find that information there. Next, it fills in the parameters for those two parameters that I've got, short description and description. It uses those from the variables that I used. Now, obviously, it hard-coded the values from those test variables that I created, which is fine. This makes it easy for me to read, makes it easy for me to test. I can test the script exactly like this, paste it into script's background, and I better get the same thing I got when I hit that test button. But in this case, I want to run this. Now, I like to create script includes. I like to keep my server-side code in libraries. Makes them easy to test, easy to build, easy to diagnose, easy to plug into a number of multiple different places. So I am going to eventually wrap this into a script include function, in which case I will put short description as a variable that I pass in and description as another variable. You're going, where do those come from? I just made them up. I'm not done yet. There's also some other stuff commented out in here that you can see is part of a larger picture. If you're going to use a mid server, you can set it to a mid server. If you're going to use a different authentication profile, you can use that. I am not, so I am going to remove those. They're in there, very nice hints. I always forget those. If you are using a mid server, you can do skip sensor true on some of these things. And now we get down to where it actually executes that REST message, where it sends that HTTP request out to the target and expects a response. That comes back in var response. This happens asynchronously, or it should be happening asynchronously, or you're going to hold your user hostage however long it takes for that other endpoint to process. Then it extracts the response body out of there and finally gets a status code. It's not using either of these at the moment. I will. Let me continue by doing what I said I would do and encapsulate that into a script include. So I am going to put in and call this REST test. Not a very creative name. I need to change it there. REST test. I know if I'd done this within the script editor, it would be doing this for me. REST test. Make sure it's all proper case. And in there, I'm going to put in my function, which I will call create incident function, short description, description are my two parameters that I'm going to pass in. Give that. And now I've got the framework. Let's take this code down here. Command X to cut, Command V to paste, and I'm going to pretty that up within ServiceNow. So I've taken my template, I put it into a script include. Not yet, I haven't. Let's go to Studio. This is just getting beyond my brain to wrap my head around this. In my CLS app, I'm going to create server development script include. And I just double-clicked on script include. You don't have to click it once and go to OK. It's just one of those things that gets you around a little faster. There's your tip of the day. Don't forget, if there's something in this video that you learned or you like, or you find informational, click the like button on the YouTube video, and others will be able to flag that. So I called this REST test, and of course, it's going to put that down here for me, but I've already done that. and I'm going to tidy that up. I know I did that rather quickly. Let me do that again, just to go along with what it was doing. I deleted what it gave me for a sample script. I pasted mine in there, didn't like the indentation. See how my function is at the same level as my try? Select all, and yes, I have a format code button here. I don't use it too much. It does have some idiosyncrasies, some quirks that can drive you nuts. So what I did is just do Shift Tab. That will work on an entire segment of code. It will work on a partial segment of code. Bing. So it knows how to deal with that. So Shift Tab is your friend. Keyboard shortcuts get you around the system even faster. Did I miss some conversation in the chat? Thank you, Kevin, because I'm still in office doing my development. Sorry, just able to join. No problem. It does take about an hour or two for YouTube to post. Yep, he's right. What is the name of the editor? I'm using Microsoft Visual Studio Code. It's available free from Microsoft, available on Windows or Mac. I think Linux too. I can't be certain of that. Someone may want to check me on that. Yeah, that's VS Code. Reason I like it a lot, Dave Slusher pushed me into this, because changing editors is almost like changing religions for some people. And I like VS Code. We started using it. I started using it this last spring, particularly to develop our lab guides for Knowledge and CreatorCon. We did everything in Markdown and made use of GitHub to keep version control over that. It was very easy because there's built-in GitHub integration into this. Now you may be going, well, gee, Chuck, welcome to the year 2018. Yeah, you're talking to a guy who's been doing this for over 30 years. I still use the VI editor wherever possible. It's just fast, it's quick, it's all driven from the home keys. This is nice because I get the integration as well. Okay, that's the main reason why I use it, is it allows me to post these scripts quite easily to you. So there is my script include. I'm not going to analyze the response or anything. What I can do is say, let's just send the status code to the log. gs.info http status equals, and say http status. Okay, we'll put a little token in the log just to make sure that it's running, and if it doesn't run, why didn't it run, that kind of thing. From there, now the reason I've got that in a script include, as I mentioned, unit testing, debugging, maintainability, plug it in anywhere, usability, lots of different reasons why this makes sense. I still need to call this function from somewhere. So create incident, I'm going to add this to a business rule. Server development, business rule. Again, Studio, nice IDE, keep your stuff together in your applications. And I'm going to call this send to demo CT1. On the incident table, there it is. I'm going to make this advanced. And when do I want to run this? I want to run this after. Why? Because I want to make sure that the local incident on dev 20465 is saved, committed, done. If I were to put this in a before business rule, and there's a catch coming, I'm going to get to that. Excuse me. If I put this in a before business rule, I don't necessarily know, because I'll confess, you confess, that the order, let's do this on insert only, the order, I rarely change the order. So if everything is at 100, it's pretty much a random, it's a random thing of who runs first and when and why. Okay. Before business rules are generally, 99% of the time, generally used to modify something on the current object before the record is saved. After business rules are all those other things you want to do after you save your record. Great order of execution in there, and there are exceptions to do that. So this is an after. I'm not modifying anything on the current incident record. I'm using the current incident record to get that information over to another system. I wouldn't want it created on the other system if something were to abort. If somebody had a current.set abort action true in their business rule, it would stop processing the business rules. Well, if they're all at 100, maybe my REST message started before that abort happened. Now I've got an incident over on this instance. This is going to be a tongue twister with instances and incidents. I've got demo CT1 has a record, but dev 20465 does not. That's not a good thing. Okay? Know your before and after and when to use them. So I'm going to create this when a new record is created, after a new record is created. Leave the actions alone. Here's where I could abort the action. I could also abort it in here. Since I don't really need a condition on here, I'm going to create this every time a new one's created. I am going to call my REST test API with create incident current.getValue short description and current.getValue description. Yes, you can type less characters if you say current dot short underscore description and current dot description, but you are then passing an object. I don't want to pass an object. I want to pass a string. Get value is the way to pass a string. So I'm going to keep beating the drum of when to run the business rules and using get value. You will hear that as a regular theme. And put it on the bow tie. One over here. Get value and one over here. Business rules. Is it a proper way to do REST integration without any code? I would find it hard to find out how you would do the REST integration without any code. You would still have a REST message, but it needs to be triggered from somewhere. Now, you could do this with Flow Designer and Integration Hub using Integration Hub actions. The Integration Hub actions eventually come down to code. It's a bit like Service Portal. Okay, you can build a service portal without any code. You can drag and drop widgets on there all day. But eventually you're going to come up against a requirement where you need something that's not available out of the box and make your own. These are reusable blocks of components. In the case of Service Portal, you create a widget. The widget can be used on any page. If you're really good at it, you give it parameters or options. Okay, we're a little off target here, but same kind of thing with the Integration Hub actions, or you put a collection of actions together into what we call a spoke. See the naming thing here? Integration Hub and spokes. Hub and spoke. Yeah, there was an intentional thing there. Okay, there is a property com.glide.businessrule.outbound.rest which will activate web service checkbox on business rule. Interesting. I'm gonna have to look into that one. I didn't know that one. Thank you, Rahul. I should mention that there's about a 10-second delay from the time that I say something to the time you hear it. So if it feels like I'm ignoring you, I'm not. I'm trying to keep up with the conversation as fast as I can. All right, so there is my message. I'm just going to execute this. I've built the code. I've put it in a business rule. We have spent the entire show on one topic. This is crazy. And I had a couple of other things that I wanted to say. Before I forget, I do have a couple of new gadgets that came in this weekend that I want to share with you. All right, are you ready to try it? I say we try it. Let's go back to our incident. This could be 45 minutes of building and 2 hours of debugging. That's not what we want. Okay, I'm going to bookmark open incidents. I tend to use that a lot as a testing ground. Let's sort these descending, create a new one. I'm logged in as me. Caller is, we'll make it Fred. It doesn't really matter. I'm not sending that information over anyway, but it is a mandatory field. And short description, Fred likes ServiceNow. All right, Fred Luddy's our founder. So, of course, he's going to like ServiceNow. Let's go down here into the notes, related record. Where's my description field? I don't have a description field on here. Who did this form layout? For shame, for shame. But I'm going to save it anyway, which means I should get a short description on the other side, but no description. While I wait for that to execute, now, notice how long that took. it actually did the REST message in the after rule and sent it back. This contradicts a theory that I thought I had, and if you were watching Live Coding Happy Hour on Friday, I said I thought that outbound REST messages had to be in async rules. Not the case. I think I even have to now go back and fix a blog entry, but that's okay. We're learning. We're learning every day. Let's go first fix the form layout to make sure that description is on here somewhere. Edit this section in global, create a section in CLS. Let's create this section in CLS section. I don't want a section captioned. To edit this form, edit this section. I hate it when this happens. It's like I'm building a freaking form. Come on. But I'm in the incident table. So let's edit it in global. Since it's a global form, we'll keep the gods happy. I need the description field. And we'll put that right below short description. Ding. And we'll make another one just so we can see. Let's put this on as Fred likes ServiceNow. Let's put Fred also likes the community. This is from incident 001 000 010. Okay, because I'm about to do an insert and stay. Dun, 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 dun. Hey, look, there's no insert and stay. This is an interesting issue that still exists. I can't believe this still exists in London. Tables that are extended from task don't seem to have insert and stay. And it drives me nuts. Okay, let's leave that. We'll come back and do another one. So there's 10,009 on this side. And of course, we could put this was 10,009 on the other instance. Let's go verify. Refresh our list. Fred likes ServiceNow made it all the way to the other instance. I'm feeling pretty good about this today. It's actually worked first time around. Let's create another one. This time we'll do David Liu. Short description. David is one of the first 4 ServiceNow founders. Did you know that? Okay. Trivia question, the first 4 people, Fred Luddy, David Liu, Don Goodliff, and Bo Ruggieri. Those are names that you find in the demo data all the time, and the reason they're there is because those people started the company. Save that. Illegal access to outbound HTTP and CLS. Use an async business rule. That's what I was expecting. So why did it work the first time or 2 that I did that? Very interesting. Okay, I don't know. I don't have an answer for that, and I wish I did. So the fix to this is to take my business rule and go from, where is it? Where is it? It's on the when to run. Sorry about the scrolling. Makes me a bit seasick sometimes. Take it from after to async. All right. I knew that was coming. That was the hook that I threw in before. Now, if I say save, it will run. And notice how much quicker that form came back. Because I don't need to wait for that REST API to happen. That could take 1, 2, 10 seconds. Why hold the user hostage with the before or after business rules, in this case after? I don't know if you were watching closely, but it took a couple of seconds for it to go create that. Now this happens in the background. A second or 2 later, I've got my David Liu record over here. Or I should. See if that happened. Fred likes ServiceNow. Maybe it didn't. Maybe it didn't trigger. It knows what current is. Let's go check the logs. This is where it gets fun, kids. I do mlog. Notice you don't have to type system space logs. You can type the middle of a phrase here. And I am looking for all, which was bookmarked, favorited. And I don't see my HTTP messages coming up here. Let's get rid of the table cleaner. Looks like that ran. Error during statement insert 0 da 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 da. Oh, that was my message. Oh, these are not sorted the right way. Okay, HTTP status 0. What's a 0? I should be getting a 201. So it did not insert my David Liu record for whatever reason. We could put in additional logging messages, see how that goes. I think async business rules should be used for integrations. It is a ServiceNow best practice. You are right, Lalit. In most cases, that is correct, because you let that happen in the background unless it's information that you absolutely positively must have on the form when the user returns to the form. That's a use case, but you're going to have to let people know when you save. In this case, it could take a few seconds. Maybe you present a message. You can put up a loading message, the little loading with the scroll thing, or wait, please wait. Let them know that something is happening, that the system is not just borked dead slow. Okay? So I am going to leave this. I have a couple things I want to show you. I got a couple new gadgets this weekend. We are working on our IoT labs for next year. If you were around, you probably remember this little guy. I've shown it a couple of times on here. We built this out of parts. There is a Wemos D1 processor here, which is built on the Arduino package. Also has built-in Wi-Fi, 2.4G. We've got an OLED display, a couple of buttons down here, an RGB LED that I hacked on a really crappy diffuser, and a temperature humidity sensor. And we ran these in many of our IoT labs at CreatorCon. However, we ran into a couple of issues. One is the Wi-Fi is 2.4 gigahertz, and that was causing us some problems when it came to networking. So one option we've got that doesn't necessarily one issue we had was the network. The other was the cost per unit. And for what we built, we could get pretty close to the same thing. This is an M5 stack. It's got a little bit larger screen in it. I don't know if it has any battery in it or anything. Yep, it does. And I'm running a quick demo of some code that I wrote in there to display some fonts. It's got 3 buttons. It's got an SD card reader. It's got a USB-C. It's got all kinds of breakout ports on the side. Very, very nice unit. And the reason they call it a stack is because if you look closely, you might be able to see just between the I/O ports and, say, the connector up here, it comes apart. Let me see if I can turn this off. It comes apart, and you can stack these units together. Whoop, don't want to break it. So there's my bottom. There's battery packs. There's GPS packs. There's all kinds of stuff. These still operate on 2.4. This is built on the ESP32 processor. Gives us a little more horsepower, a little more memory, but still 2.4 gigahertz. The other option, and they run about, the base unit I think was $44 on Amazon. The other option is a Raspberry Pi. Now, I've got a Pi here that I've had for a while. This is the 3B, and I believe it's got 5 gigahertz Wi-Fi in it. So this addresses the Wi-Fi. I forget if this is a 3B or 3B plus now. But it's a fairly recent one within the last year. And we put on the Raspberry Pi Sense Hat. Now, I'm doing crazy things with my camera. Sorry. Has an array of LEDs, not quite what you would expect, but we could always do a breakout with an OLED. You'd still have access to the GPIO ports up here. And we've got buttons. We've got some other sensors that we can put on here. This extends the capabilities a little bit more to what we can do with the Pi. Now, the Pi is standard. It is also a bit more complex because you've got the entire operating system on there. We could theoretically run a mid server on here as well. So we've got more capability, more flexibility. The other interesting aspect about this is we could use Node-RED. So instead of creating Arduino code in C++ and using special libraries, we've got the capability of using Node-RED, which is a drag and drop interface to get an HTTP incoming request. And I haven't done a whole lot of development with it. I've watched a couple of demo videos, but that offers us some capabilities as well. So Jason McKee is sort of my Sherpa through all of this. He guides me on what I should go check out and then throws me some sample code, and I go build and geek out and have fun with that. So the M5 stack is a neat thing. I want to test that out, do some more work with that. The Raspberry Pi obviously is having some fun there. So why didn't it work with the after business rule? It worked like twice. I don't know why. It did. And then suddenly it came up and told me I needed to be async. So I don't know if it was something in the way that it was working, something in the way that the data was there. I don't know why it suddenly changed its mind and why the async rule didn't trigger first. I will look into that. I also owe you find people the code for that. So let me do a quick file, save as. That was a save. We're going to put that in today's live stream folder. Let's make a new folder, 2018 0827, as I promised. Create that and save this as. Before I save that, hold on. I want to get the right code. That's the ugly unformatted one with garbage in it. Let's go back to my script include. Copy all of that over to the editor. Paste that. File. Save in the 2.7 folder. And call this rest here. Script include rest test.js. And as soon as I say JS, it puts in some nice fine color coding for me. Let's also 2018 0827 script. Commit that to GitHub, and you can pick that up at the URL right now. So thank you very much. That takes us near the end of the show. I want to see if there's anything else in my notes. I did have a couple things that I wanted to talk about. Let's do a quick follow-up on some of these. So somebody asked earlier, since we are in the community, I should probably put that in here, that I covered all this stuff. Reply. By the way, I spent almost the entire session on today's community live stream on this same example. You can find it on YouTube at I don't have the YouTube link yet. Let's just put in the main feed. HTTPS YouTube dot here. Even better. Why type a URL on the 2018 0827 show? Community live stream. Mumble, mumble, mumble. Don't mumble to the audience, Chuck. Put in the link. HTTPS YouTube. Make it official. YouTube.com. What was the link? This is why I have this. I know I cheat. I just want to make sure they get it right. It is fully spelled out in this one. ServiceNow Community. Okay. Change that to a new window. Put that in there. Okay. Save. When I get this real post, I'll update that one. Okay. So what somebody had asked about, get rid of the title down there. Use the same watermark in a service request as an original incident. And I replied to this. They said, we are creating requests out of existing incidents and closing the incidents. It makes sense. You want your process to do that. We want to ensure continuous communication in the same email chain. Is it possible to reassign the watermark from the incident to the newly created request? Short answer is yes, but I wouldn't recommend this. And I went into why I wouldn't. I said, number one, it detaches the ability to update that incident in the future. You may want to see if something else has come in. This is one of those cases where I would approach this from a process perspective first before trying a technological solution. And this is a good practice to get into. It's like, do we really need to spend time customizing something that we could fix in just plain old communications? When you send out that initial request, and I get this kind of thing from our internal system. When I open an incident and they send me a message back that says, hey, we've closed this incident. It's been created as a request. You can find out more at this link. That's the end of really that email thread. When the new request gets open, I get another one that says, hey, we've received your request. Here's the link. And it's got a fresh watermark. So treat them as two separate conversations because they really should be. Once you go into the sys_watermark table and start hoking around, you've added a customization to the platform. That is something that somebody somewhere is going to have to maintain and understand that it's there. it's a nuance of your instance that varies from out of the box, which means you will have to test it on every upgrade. You will have to verify it. You may have to maintain it going forward. Is that something you want to add to the cost? So make sure that whoever is asking for this requirement about continuous conversation understands what the maintenance cost is. I'm going to say it again and again and again. It's not that you can't do it. It's should you do it. Just because you can do a thing doesn't mean you should do a thing. This is a great case of that. When there is a perfectly good way to do it without any technology, do it with your regular notifications that tell people this conversation is over. This is the beginning of a new conversation. You find that in 99.9% of the cases, that's going to be just fine. We had a custom module built and 2 groups using it. Now there's one more group which wants to make use of the same module, but don't want other 2 teams seeing their task data. Can this be done? I'm going to ask that you post that to the community. We are at the end of this episode, and that way you'll get a lot of other great experts rather than just me and a few people that are in the chat right now. So great community question. Please put that over there on community.servicenow.com. If you've got other questions or want responses, be happy to help you there. For today, I am done. I wanted to cover a couple more things, but just didn't happen. Again, recommend subscribe to the YouTube channel over at youtube.servicenow.com. Follow me on LinkedIn. You can search for me at chucktomasi.com. Until tomorrow, I wish you all the best. And again, short week this week, just 3 shows, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I look forward to talking to you again tomorrow on August 28th. Until then, take care. Bye.